New piston on a recent episode of this NBA season, and we talk about it with 5 of our great analysts. We're switching everyone out throughout the show, so please welcome in our ESPN insider, writer, and general bon vivant man around town, Mr. Kevin Arnott.
I love how that makes me sound.
There you go. You can put that on your desk. I'm going to give that to you. And, of course, former Nets assistant GM and ESPN senior capologist, Mr. Bobby Marks. Welcome. Brian Windhorst is also here, so that's good. And then we have Sterling. I'm kidding. Welcome back, Brian. And then we have our Sterling Affairs author and NBA insider, Ramona Shelburne. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Guys, with so much movement during the summer, I want to know if that pattern is going to continue into the season. ESPN insider Adrian Wojnarowski has one team to keep an eye on as this season commences.
The NBA's February 6th trade deadline, it's only a little over 4 months away. A lot's going to happen in the league this season that'll impact and dictate how that deadline plays out. But one thing you can almost assuredly count on, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be in the middle of it all. They've already unloaded Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Jeremy Grant, and gotten back 8 first-round picks. They have potentially 15 first-round picks in Oklahoma City between now and the 2026 NBA draft. They can add to that with players like, obviously, Chris Paul, Steven Adams, Danilo Gallinari, teams who want to improve, make a championship push. At that trade deadline, many of them will be calling Oklahoma City to see what the price tag will be on those upper echelon players.
I don't know if Woj is saying it's just going to be a bunch of draft picks on the floor for Oklahoma City by March because they're going to trade everyone away. I don't know if OKC in the scenario Woj is describing counts as team turbulence, because we kind of expect that and what they're going to see there. That's obviously a rebuilding team. But the NBA does its own special kind of team turbulence sometime. What do you think, Bobby, is going to be the team where things maybe just blow up and then we see them trying to switch gears midseason?
I am looking at the defending NBA champion, the Toronto Raptors, and I look at it a couple different ways. The post-Kawhi Leonard hangover effect. Their best player is not there right now. Pascal Siakam is up for a rookie extension. I've been told that he has circled $168 million as the price tag. He's looking at that Jamal Murray extension. And then you look at the expiring contracts. Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol. So I think for Toronto, if you circle maybe December 15th, where they are at that point of the season, that might be a fire sale right there.
I mean, certainly. This list of unrestricted free agents is amazing. That's just asset, 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 asset. It'll be very interesting to see what Masai Ujiri does. Ramona, who do you have as team turbulence?
I'm going to go with Houston, and not because I don't necessarily believe in the James Harden-Russell Westbrook pairing, but if they don't get off to a good start. This is a team that was ready to blow up the entire franchise. They were the whole team. Everybody was on the block, and they settled on this trade for Russell Westbrook, and they have all their eggs in that basket, but Mike D'Antoni has almost an entirely new coaching staff. They have a very...
With 1 year on his contract.
With 1 year left on his contract, and a very public and contentious negotiation that he had with ownership there. And if this team doesn't get up to a good start, there is going to be a lot of discussion about, was this enough? Was this the right move? Is Mike D'Antoni the guy? If they get off to a good start, maybe we'll have something better to talk.
And also, an activist owner always sort of contributes to turbulence.
Right, and by the way, it's not like Daryl Morey ever makes trades or moves or anything. So it's good you went out on a limb there with that. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
And Rachel, the one thing I've learned, you don't fire the players. No. It's usually going to be the coach before, especially it's the players that you go out and draft or make a trade for. It's usually the coach is going to be the one who's going to be the sacrificial.
Especially with less than a year left on his deal. We have had players try to fire other players on a team, but that is a different story. Who's your pick?
I'm not saying that this is going to lead to big trades, but I think this is going to be some headwinds in Brooklyn this year. Now, I know everyone is very excited about them, and obviously they picked up a couple of stars, and that was a great move forward. But Kyrie Irving is a challenging teammate to learn how to play with. And this was a team that, while they are better, while their championships ceiling was increased, there was a really good young core here that was settled in and has now been broken up, and some of them had their roles reduced. They brought in a guy like DeAndre Jordan, who's going to challenge for playing time with Jared Allen. Some other players on the perimeter who really developed last year are going to have to maybe take a step back to make room for Kyrie. Spencer Dinwiddie, who was one of the best perimeter players in the East last year, has to maybe take a step back. So I am expecting some choppy waters in Brooklyn. Not necessarily that they regret anything, but I think there's going to be a transition year. They're going to feel it.
It's such an irony there, right? That Kyrie Irving is going to a new team with a bunch of players who are young, who played really well without him the season before and now have to redo their roles. Maybe he's learned and he's going to do things differently this year. I don't know.
Well, it's also funny because we talk so much about culture in the league. And and Brooklyn is very proud of its culture and what they've built and overachieved in the last few years. And yet you have an opportunity to add a superstar who, by the way, has not exactly been a cultural additive. You do it every time, right? Like, for as much as we bow at this altar of culture, you always are willing to sacrifice it for talent.
I mean, NBA bows at superstar more than anything. Who's your pick for team turmoil?
The Lakers, and not necessarily like you, because I don't think they're going to necessarily underachieve, but can you think of a LeBron James team that hasn't been turbulent? This is a man who said last February, I love being uncomfortable. He thrives in chaos. Turbulence is almost a prerequisite for any LeBron James team. And then, of course, you also have, I mean, frankly, like, who's in charge in Los Angeles? I mean, you have so much palace intrigue. Is that a rhetorical question? No, it's actually a very literal question. You know, who's in charge on the coaching staff? Who's in charge in the front office? Who makes the personnel decisions? Who is the most influential person? I mean, you have agents, consigliaries, you have courtiers, you have owners, you have siblings of owners, you have coaches and assistant coaches who aren't necessarily, maybe will be aligned, maybe will not. But, like, you add that dynamic to, again, just the kind of baseline LeBron appreciation of chaos. And that is going to be some turbulence. They may win a ton of games, but it's going to be turbulent.
I think it's LeBron's intention this year to come in and make it smooth. Try to be invested in Anthony Davis's success. Support Frank Vogel. The problem is LeBron's best laid plans in the summer, they don't always translate to the battle of the season. That's going to be the big question.
That is the honeymoon period, the offseason, right?
Yeah.
Once we get going, when training camp starts, the honeymoon is over for everyone.
Yeah.
Now real-life problems are going to start to happen.
Absolutely. And then you have players who their situations might not be turbulent, but because of contracts or other things, we think, oh, yeah, that guy will be on the move before February. Who do you think?
Oh, in terms of who's on the move?
Yeah.
I think, honestly, like, there's so many players right now that we obviously, Bobby talked about that with Toronto, but I'm going to go with Kevin Love. He's a guy that the Cavs made a big show of throwing a big contract extension at him after LeBron left. But when Kevin Love signed that contract, the idea was he was going to lead the Cavs into a new era. They have pretty quickly turned that page, and I think it's pretty obvious they're rebuilding, and you don't need a player of Kevin Love's caliber at this stage, and you got to see what you can get for him.
What about you guys?
I have Chris Paul. I mean, look, Oklahoma City's not interested in a big long-term contract for a guy on the, getting toward 35, right?
They have to find someone else to.
Right, and so here's a question. I go, when the New York Knicks on December 15th have a bunch of one-and-one deals and about 17 power forwards and guys who team option in year 2, I just wonder if that won't be alluring. Miami's going to be really interesting.
And Chris Paul is going to go into this season wanting to be traded. Look for a very spry, young, and happy Chris Paul.
Yeah.
He's all into the plant-based food.
I think it's Bradley Beal in Washington. And I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a point in the season that Bradley Beal wakes up one morning and looks at the standings and his Wizards team is 4-30 and is going to say to himself, do I really want to do this anymore?
I think that the Wizards are going to wake up and feel that way. I know that they keep saying he's our cornerstone, he's the kind of guy we want. I get that. I hear that. But the value on him is going to be so high. Think about the number of teams that made really big bets this season that they were going to be the ones who could win the championship. Some of those teams will be in trouble by February, and there will be an enormous amount of pressure to go get someone like Bradley Beal, who is so additive, who could be a complement to so many teams. I think the price on him is going to be sky high, and eventually it's going to be too hard for Washington to resist. We will see. Thank you for basically predicting that the NBA will be complete chaos this season. You are now my favorite people. When we return, Kawhi Leonard made his mark and took down the champs in June. But will he repeat with a new cast? Or will a new king reign? But first, our own Kirk Goldsberry provides one outstanding title X Factor by the Bay.
It was all Giannis. He's almost unstoppable.
I don't think you'll see anybody like him or a player that plays like him.
Kawhi Leonard is the most prolific winner in NBA history.
Right now, this dude is the best basketball player on planet Earth.
LeBron James with no regard for human life.
He's the king. He's the GOAT.
To me, he's the greatest of all time.
I want people to say that LeBron James did it his way. Now he's the legend.
He's not even human.
Stephen Curry, who passed LeBron James as the face of the NBA.
The brilliant shooting of Stephen Curry continues.
Probably one of the best one-on-one players in the history of the game.
He got it! James Harden, a flamethrower!
He believes he's the best player in the world.
Pretty much impossible to stop him.
James is, to me, the best offensive player ever.
Welcome back to the SportsCenter special, NBA 5 on 5. It's like do-do-do-do-do-do. I've teleported with 4 new people. I have many friends. I am now joined by our new ESPN Pelicans beat writer, Andrew Lopez. Welcome to the gang. Also, our highly proficient grade giver and ESPN NBA staff writer, Kevin Pelton. Thank you for being here. Our NBA insider now holding down the Nets and Knicks this season, Malika Andrews. And, of course, our Lakers insider and expert, Dave McMenamin. Thank you guys all for being with us. And like the mantle for who the next NBA champion will be is unsettled, as is the player who should be considered the league's best. Now, on ESPN.com, NBA players were ranked by a conglomerate. I love using that word. NBA insiders, fans, everyone had a voice in this, and they based it on the following question. Which player will be better this season, considering both the quality and quantity of each player's contributions to his team's ability to win games in the regular season and the postseason? I got to remind people, that's the projection of how this coming season is going to go. It's not about who's had the best career or any of that. And that ranking placed Giannis Antetokounmpo first, followed by reigning Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard, then LeBron, James Harden, Anthony Davis, and Steph Curry. So, Kevin, I know you had a vote in NBA rank, but right now we're doing just the Kevin Pelton NBA rank, as if you got to decide it all. Finally.